Hello and welcome to this next video, number 16 in the series Famous World War II Airfields as they were in World War II and as they are now in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This time we look at the very famous World War II Hendersen Field on Guadalcanal Island in the Solomon Islands, Southeast Pacific, now AGGH Honiara International Airport. Hendersen was at the centre of the Guadalcanal World War II campaign, which was the turning point for Japan, all downhill for Japan after that, and therefore has been the subject of very many books and films. Here we see the location of Guadalcanal, bottom of the picture, just right of centre. The thick black line shows the furthest extent of Japan's control, which peaked in 1942. Note the intrusion into Papua New Guinea and the proximity of Australia. By this time, Japan had established a major military base in Rabaul on the Papua New Guinea island of New Britain in the Bismarck archipelago, shown in the picture just to the left of the Solomon Islands. The Solomons then being a protectorate of the UK. In May 1942, Japan occupied Guadalcanal Island and some nearby smaller islands and started to construct a large airfield on Guadalcanal Island. From there, Japan hoped to disrupt the lines between the USA and Australia and further advance into Papua New Guinea and elsewhere in the Southeast Pacific, including Australia. Following defensive successes in the naval battles of the Coral Sea and Midway in May and June 1942, the Allies decided to go on the offensive for the first time at Guadalcanal. In August 1942, Allied forces, shown red in the picture, mainly US Marines, but with some British, Australians, New Zealanders and Tonganese, captured Guadalcanal Island and also Tulagai and some other smaller islands off Florida Island, as well as the airfield, later called Hendersen Field, that Japan was constructing on Guadalcanal Island. The Allies' plan was then to go on and recapture Rabaul in Papua New Guinea, where Japan had established a large threatening military base. From August 1942 through to February 1943, Japan tried desperately, numerous times, unsuccessfully, to retake Guadalcanal Island, as you can see in the picture. 3 major land battles, 7 large naval battles, daytime air battles, and nighttime bombings, over 6 months would you believe. The final battle was a sea bombardment and land attack to retake Hendersen Field. Not that there was much left of it by that time. After that last unsuccessful battle, Japan gave up its attempt to retake Guadalcanal and retreated from the area in February 1943. Guadalcanal was one of the most ferocious campaigns of World War II. There was a very large loss of personnel, ships and aircraft on both sides. The stretch of water between Guadalcanal and Florida Islands became known as Iron Bottom Sound because of the scores of ships and aircraft that sank there. It is now considered sacred ground by both sides. Altogether, from both sides, 27,000 personnel died, 70 ships sunk, and 1,300 aircraft were lost. This picture shows how after Guadalcanal the Allies successfully worked their way northwest up the Solomons through further battles, and eventually they retook Rabaul at the top of the island of New Britain, where the Japanese had established a large military base. It really was all downhill for Japan after Guadalcanal, albeit a long slow ride over 2 to 3 years. The route of the Tokyo Express, shown in the picture, refers to the Allies' name for the regular attempts by Japan to supply reinforcements by ship to the Japanese on Guadalcanal during the months of fighting. In this next picture we see on the left hand side the airfield on Guadalcanal as it had been developed by Japan in July 1942. The airfield was quickly completed and continuously developed and kept operational by the Allies during the course of the fighting, as shown on the right hand side of the picture, and named Hendersen Field after an heroic Marine aviator who was killed in the earlier Battle of Midway. The Cactus Air Force, named after the Allied code name for Guadalcanal, Cactus, went into action immediately and just about every day thereafter for the ensuing 6 months in which Japan attempted to retake Guadalcanal. Their aircraft were mainly Grumman Wildcats, left-hand side picture, along with some other types of aircraft there, Bell Air Cobras, middle picture, and Douglas Dauntless aircraft, the right-hand side picture, all fighters or fighter-bomber aircraft. The Corsair aircraft shown in this picture on Guadalcanal, and which I'll be flying in the simulator later in the video, arrived in 1943 on Guadalcanal after Japan had fled the area, but they were used extensively for later battles in the Solomons and beyond. During the fighting, before Japan retreated, 2 fighter fields were built alongside Hendersen Field by the Allies. The pagoda referred to in the left-hand side picture was the headquarter buildings shown in the right-hand side picture, one of the few buildings in the early days at Hendersen Field. This next rather unclear 1943 picture shows the 2 fighter fields as Fighter Number 1 just to the right of Hendersen and Fighter Number 2 to the left at Kukum Beach, and Hendersen Field as Bomber Number 1. After Japan retreated from Guadalcanal, Fighter Number 3 was built, as well as Bomber Number 2 and 3 at Colai Point to the right of the main field at Lunga Point. This large number of fields shows the importance of Guadalcanal to the Allies in pushing Japan forever northwest back to their home islands. Conditions at Hendersen Field were atrocious. Not only floods, mud, mosquitoes and tropical diseases, but daily and nightly attacks from Japanese artillery, ships and aircraft. The worst night saw 700 heavy shells land on Hendersen Field from Japanese battleships. While most of the action was on Guadalcanal Island, the Allies had also taken over the nearby seaplane bases that Japan had established at Tulugai and adjacent islands just off Florida Island to the north of Guadalcanal. This great picture of the current Hendersen Field, looking to the west with runway 24 in the foreground, shows how the current runway was built between the 2 wartime runways. I love overlay pictures like this showing the then and the now relative to each other in the one shot. A pretty rare thing really. Now we'll continue and take the Butte Payware World War II Corsair up for a spin, having a look around Guadalcanal and nearby Tulugai and associated islands. Well, here we are at about 10,000 feet above Florida Island, heading south over Iron Bottom Sound to Guadalcanal Island on the horizon, flying in the great Corsair fighter bomber with its distinguishing wing shape, one of the most successful aircraft of World War II and even conflicts after World War II. It was designed initially for aircraft carrier operations, but it was soon replaced in that role and then used for more land-based operations, partly because its long nose and poor visibility made carrier landing somewhat difficult. Coming up now, under the nose of the aircraft, is Tulugai Island, where Japan had established a seaplane base which the Allies successfully took over. Over to the left, again coming up under the aircraft nose, is a smaller group of islands with another Japanese seaplane base that the Allies also took over. Now we turn towards Honiara Hendersen Field on Guadalcanal. Before visiting Honiara Hendersen, we'll take a quick look at the location where bomber fields numbers 2 and 3 were located at Coley Point. That's Coley Point over on the left. The orange patch directly ahead and the open green patch just in front of it are where the bomber fields were, but there's nothing left to see these days. Now turning towards Honiara Hendersen Field, and along the coast here the Allies had facilities for unloading large numbers of personnel and massive amounts of materials and equipment. Fighter fields numbers 1 and 3 were located to the left of Hendersen, and fighter field number 2 to the right on the other side of the river, but nothing to see now from war days. A quick overfly now of Honiara, the capital of the Solomons, but the sim scenery does not do it justice, probably because Bing Maps is lacking in this area. Approaching Honiara Hendersen, gear down, was hoping to land now but couldn't lower flaps because going too fast. The Corsair also had another unusual feature that if you lowered flaps but then increased speed too much, the flaps would automatically raise to avoid damage and then lower again when speed fell to a safe level. Pretty flash for those days. So we'll simply overfly the field and do a U-turn landing. There's that long nose again. Well, that's just about the end, but just for a bit of fun, we'll land and park in front of the tower, open the canopy and fold the wings. Bit of a bounce, not too bad. Here we go, opening the canopy. Nice effect there from the developers of the aircraft. Side view of the canopy open. Into the cockpit. Pull up the left-hand safety pin for folding the left wing. Right hand safety pin, pull the lever to fold the wings, and there they go, designed of course for aircraft carrier based operations. Well, hope you enjoyed that. Please consider liking and subscribing for weekly videos. So long, cheers.